Could a black man be elected in the United States?
Should we care?
I find most American politics, even the Democrats, a bit too right-wing for me.
Should we really care what they think? Our separate worlds are so different.
I suppose I don't care about the election as such, but the outcome, I think, will have big implications for the whole world.
Especially if Americans can can go against the UN and, I don't know, attack various countries around the world if they feel like it.
It's not surprising that there is great interest in the American presidential election campaign, because who is the President of the United States of America matters to the whole of the world.
We want to make a safe world for everybody, not just for here, I mean, for the whole nation.
An event in one country affects other countries, and there are global issues that can't be solved at a national level, such as climate change.
Middle-class people in Britain are wasting their time recycling their little bits of paper and milk cartons if Americans have their big Hummers, is that what they're called?
I'm surprised by how much people over here are really following it.
I know people in the United States, relatives, who think, who cares what the rest of the world thinks about the United States? You know, who cares? We'll just throw our weight around.
Politics stirs our world into a blend where everyone is affected. The 2008 U.S. election impacted everyone on the planet. Despite the fact Americans look off their shores and see nothing in the distance, the isolation is both comforting and threatening.
We think that we're untouchable, but we're very much not. And I think that makes us naive and willing to act in our own best interest, which makes us not as good as we could be.
The United States has to make sure that it has friends and allies out there. And there's no guarantee that in 70 or 80 years from now, the United States will be the most powerful country in the world. You know, there's no guarantee of it.
We look in America as like our leader, you know. We like the idea, we like the things they do.
We could be a leader, but we don't need to run over everyone. We don't need to bulldoze them.
The rest of the world needs to care about this election. I mean, you know, as much as you would see that either they dislike America or they like America or what they think we're bullies, they think that we're great. You know, just look at France. They went from absolutely hating us to having a leader that now they're like, hey, you know, y'all aren't so bad. Yeah, they have to watch and they have to look at us, because the fact is that if our markets get bad, their markets get bad. So I think that this is a big deal. Now, you don't see where the other markets get bad and then ours falls. It's always ours as a leader. So yeah, they need to be interested and involved, and I would hope that they take more of an interest.
They're going to do it. They're going to do it because they're living and breathing and they hate us and they want to kill us.
I think we need to be careful of that word terrorism. I think there's different types of terrorism, and we shouldn't perhaps brand different types of global terrorism under the one umbrella term.
We're wasting time, and the more time we give them, the more chance they have of building more and more bombs to take us out.
You know, the United States doesn't have a history of these types of attacks, and it just surprised and shocked Americans that something like this could happen in the United States.
Maybe we need to remove that reactionary culture, and I think having these strict borders just produces more reactionary culture.
It's so easy to get in this country, it's not funny. So we have no security. You know, the border, sure, they're cracking down. I'm not going to mock them. They're cracking down on how to get a passport, how to get in the country. If they won't even let planes land if certain people are on them. So they stop them from getting on now.
One thing I really hate about America is when I entered the country and I have to go through this tireless process of questions before they stamp my passport. Stuff like, what are you doing here and why would you want to visit our country, and what are you going to visit, and can you give me some examples of tourist sites you're going to see? Do you have a guidebook in your bag? I went twice in 1 year, and they were very suspicious that I had 2 stamps on my passport from the States. And my brother visited 3 times in 1 year, and he got brought into a little room and was interviewed. Which is ridiculous, I think.
Whereas I've heard people say here in Europe the Spaniards and here in the United Kingdom, they live with terrorism for a long time. The troubles in Northern Ireland, there's been bombings going on. This is something that people in Europe have had to deal with and live with for a very long time.
It's almost scary what we're going to live through this year and the next few years. But I think in a world view, the American election for president is what they're probably going to key off of.
If you don't have national security, you don't have anything else. If we have another 9/11, they think the markets are bad now. They don't know what it could be, because the next 9/11 will probably be worse than the first one.
Here's what's going to happen. We get hit with a new president and they take out a major American city or two or three. They're going to declare war. But it's going to be too late for all those people that got blown away.
I think maybe we need to move away from that culture to try and solve the problem of terrorism. Because if you start to treat people differently, they're going to act in the way that you see them, hence produce more terrorism.
You get a new guy in there, if it's not McCain, Obama, that poor guy, is going to be tested like you wouldn't believe if he gets in there. And he better make the right decisions, and if he doesn't, it might be too late. Because we could be that close to anarchy.
I don't like Obama. I don't care for him. He's against it. He's against people owning guns and taking my rights, and I don't believe in that,
I've been married to a woman for 43 years. She's a wonderful parochial girl, prays, goes to church. She's a great woman. She wants a gun because she's fearful for the election. I'm serious. I have never, ever in my life ever seen anything like this. It's just exactly what you're talking about. She's really scared that we could have this crazy, whatever you want to call it, and I'm going, dear God, please don't ever happen like that.
Colin Powell just said that he thinks Obama can handle national security as well as John McCain can. In response to that, Joe Biden came out today and said that he's almost convinced that there will be an attack. The world will test a President Obama. So quite frankly, I think I'm going to trust Joe Biden more than I'm going to trust Colin Powell on this one.
I mean, it's pretty bad when your number two man that is running on your ticket is saying, within the first 6 months of an Obama presidency or an Obama term, we're going to be tried. The rest of the world's going to try us. Why? Why is this the case? Maybe Obama needs to ask himself that.
I'm afraid of more of the same. Waking up and finding out that Bush just got elected again.
Well, and that's McCain.
That's it.
McCain equals Bush. I'm sorry. They can turn it any way they want, but McCain equals Bush. He voted for him 95% of the time. He has the same lobbyists in his pocket. It's more of the same would be frightening.
Pretty terrifying. That.
I despise President Bush. I did. First day he got put in, I was upset. I kept telling my family I had to move out of the country. I was joking, of course, but I really, when they voted him in the second time, I was absolutely appalled, and I can't even watch his speeches anymore because I want to throw things at the television.
It's not the Republican Bush that started this. It started back, over 10 years ago with Clinton pushing his agenda for trying to be, get more housing and more loans available for blacks. And I forgot what the program was, but they put it in, and we're paying dearly now.
I don't know. I like the Americans. I just don't like George W. Bush. That's it.
I was all for going to defend ourselves after 9/11. But then you don't go beat up the next door neighbor because you're mad at the guy in this house. You know what I mean?
The war in Iraq really gave the French a bad image of the US. But I don't think the French associate the President George W. Bush with the whole of the US, so it's okay, I guess.
And then he lied about it, or they told him wrong, and he wasn't smart enough to figure it out.
My wife and I had a very serious argument over going into Iraq. I said it was the biggest mistake. I said, Hussein's not a threat to us. He may be partying up to the Al-Qaeda and the Taliban, but he's not a threat at this point. We don't have to do anything. Why go in there? Why make a big deal out of it? The only thing I can think of is that he went in there because he wanted to get Hussein. Hussein threatened to tried to assassinate his father.
I don't think he's a very smart man, And I think he's just trying to press his father, and I think he's an idiot.
So I thought it was more personal that he went in, because there was no logical reason to go in there. All this yellow cake and these things they had Colin Powell doing, none of it made any sense.
I don't think he was well advised in his decisions, and his view of the world is so black and white, so narrow.
To go to Iraq was a big mistake, but it's even bigger probably to stay there.
And he said he did it because he really felt they had weapons of mass destruction. The minute I heard that, I said, that's going to come back to bite you, because you got to prove it.
But because we say it doesn't make it so. I wish it did. I wish I was a size 3, but I'm not. And people have to learn, just because somebody stands up there and tells you something doesn't make it so.
The Bush administration burned a whole lot of international political capital. I mean, after 9/11, countries were lining up to support the United States. But when Iraq happened, the only coalition of the willing that could be cobbled together by the administration was a coalition of the bought.
People hold very strong views on both sides of this debate. You know, we have been now, you know, in Iraq for 5 years or more, and in my experience, there was nothing to be gained in the 2.5 years that I was the Secretary of State for Defence. There was nothing to be gained by having that perennial debate about whether it was the right thing to do. And no doubt in due course, you know, history will judge, and there may indeed be inquiries, you know, both sides of the Atlantic.
I don't think there's been much support for America or for Britain recently. Well, I don't think there will be for a long time. I think it's led to a lot of anti-American, anti-British feeling in Europe and around the world.
It doesn't seem to me to be very much to come out that people don't already know. People have made their minds up. The question now is, we did invade the country. We removed Saddam Hussein. I, in 2.5 years of visiting regularly to Iraq, and I was in Iraq about 10 times for extended periods over that time, never met an Iraqi who wanted Saddam back, I have to say. And it didn't celebrate the fact that he was no longer there brutalising their country. But instead of concentrating on that, what we need to do is, having invaded the country, is live up to our responsibilities to the Iraqi people, and that is to give them the opportunity now to build on the democratic government they have, to build on the political cooperation that has emerged, to build on their ability to be able to build a strong and capable army and a police force.
And when the pundits said my campaign was finished, I said I'd rather lose an election than see my country lose a war.
I keep drawing parallels with Vietnam because that's what I'm more familiar with. I think that's going to be what's going to happen here, is a withdrawal with honor, and then people are going to look back and think, what was that all about?
But we were dragged into various conflicts throughout the last 8 years because of the Bush administration. You know, there are significant issues tied to who becomes president.
America has not lost its Scottish friends, but the provocation since 9/11 by the present administration has done much to lose friends and uninfluenced people in so much of the world. With another war unsanctioned by the UN, as was Vietnam, although not Korea.
I think a lot of people in Britain are going to be very excited when Bush leaves office. I think they view him as a real force for evil.
Riders, jog your horses, please. Jog your horses.
I have looked at Sarah Palin many times. I've been reading about her. I think she is a phenomenal leader. I like her style. I like her philosophy. I like pretty much everything about her, and I think she'll be wonderful.
And I call him Osama Obama Hussein. I know that's a little harsh, but it gets the point across.
First of all, I'm conservative. I've always been that way. I feel people need to work for what they have and not take handouts from other people.
Nobody cares about their neighbor anymore. Everybody's worried about greed, money. Money runs this country, you know. And elections are all about the money, you know. You got the money, you can play the game.
I don't think you can get it much better than what we have. It's not perfect. There is no perfect way of doing it. Jesus Christ is the only perfect way. And, we're people, we're mere mortals, and we're doing a pretty good job of screwing things up and making things happen. So,
Used to fill my truck up for $5 when I was 16. Now it's $125, you know. And the wages haven't changed, so it hurts, you know.
I think that it's extremely important that America be secure and Europe be secure, because I see a threat that's a global threat against our way of life. There are a group of people who want to kill us, and they want to kill us in any way they can, just because we are who we are. And that's a scary proposition. So I think we need to be secure and do what we can to defeat that idea, and to be strong throughout the world, and to stand with the other world and make the rest of the world and make sure that doesn't happen. Because these are people who want to kill us just to kill us. I am of Scottish descent. My grandmother and her family came from Aberdeen. I've been to Scotland. I've been to Ireland several times because my husband's family is from Ireland. And I was very frustrated because the Irish relatives only get one side of the story, in my opinion, by listening to Sky News or whatever their sources are. They get a very one-sided view. And I think that's grossly unfair. So when I was over there, I tried to explain to them what we see as the issues. And they were very surprised because they, at that time, had been told that George Bush was evil personified. They've been told that Republicans in general are out of touch. And I tried to tell them otherwise. So, it's just, I hope I did a good job, but it's very hard. We don't understand Europe. They don't understand us.
You know, I don't care what boundaries separate. We're all people, you know, we're all human beings, you know. We got different cultures. We're taught different beliefs. I don't really know the beliefs of Europe and what they feel and believe in, but, I got to believe that they got to be good people too, you know.
Who's the Prime Minister of Great Britain? I got to stop. I don't know anything about Europe, and you're right. We should know more about it,
Mulrooney.
Great Britain?
Great Britain? I'm not sure. I think it's Mulrooney, isn't it?
I have no idea, friend. I have no idea.
And it proves the point that we really don't follow things in Europe as much as we could. I really don't know. I know, of course, Tony Blair, and he's gone, and I know I believe it may be someone named Martin, but I'm not sure. So.
When your money's gone, friends have turned you down, and you wander around just like a hound, a lonesome hound. Then you stop to say, let me go away from this old town, this awful town.
And Democrats are more cognizant of their place with the rest of the world rather than separate from the world. So I think you would traditionally find Democrats who are more willing and open to recognize the kinds of differences that are valuable to all of us.
I was a kid when Kennedy died, and it seemed the whole country mourned, so I never really saw the charisma of him as a leader. But to see a guy who inspires people, it's just incredible, and listening to his speech, it just felt like something could happen, something positive. It's been a long time since that's happened in this country, so from my perspective.
Dallas, Texas, that's the town I cry. So hear me cry, and I'm going back to stay until I die, until I die.
What we all want in November is to have a Democratic president. For the Hillary supporters, it would have been nice if it had been Hillary Clinton, but in actuality, we're tickled pink that it's Obama and Biden because it's going to be wonderful in November when we have a Democratic president.
It's not that I'd want to be an isolationist, but it's just that so much is going on in this country where I think so many people that I know are hurting.
People are searching for a kind of hope that perhaps we haven't seen in many years. And I think in some ways the quality of the candidates we have is in fact that kind of hope.
The race will be about issues, and it won't be as much about Bush as it is going to be about the differences in the platforms between Senator McCain and Senator Obama.
What a time, what a time, what a time.
Charges. It's a system that's got to be cleaned up.
We have to look at how is it that we shredded so many regulations. We did not set up a 21st century regulatory framework to deal with these problems.
You've got to look at our records. That's the important thing. We've got to cut spending. We have, as I said, we've let government get completely out of control. Senator Obama has the most liberal voting record in the United States Senate. It's hard to reach across the aisle from that far to the left.
I think this group felt that that our candidate, John McCain, probably did a very good job, and that Barack Obama stumbled his way through things several times and kind of deflected issues a little bit. I think I saw a little bit of that.
It's funny for me to listen to a gentleman like Barack Obama with no military experience, absolutely none whatsoever. And I, myself, am a Marine Corps reservist, so when he talks about sending at least 2 more brigades into Afghanistan, I'm very curious if he even knows how many soldiers are in a brigade.
It's frustrating when you see mainstream media, you know, printing and getting out there what needs to get out there about Obama. It truly is so one-sided. And that is very frustrating.
I think Barack Obama's, as far as Europe goes, they probably like it, but he's really, I think for America, it's very passive, and he wants to tell the enemy when the war's going to end, before it ends, and he wants to. He's got a lot of things that, well, it sounds good, maybe it feels good, but it's not sound, it's not secure, it's not safe, it's not good for America. It might put everything on an even keel and national, but it puts us at risk. So I don't feel good about his foreign policy position. I think John McCain is a member of the military, and again, with all his experience, I mean, I think he's really got the points that it's going to take to bring some balance in the world as far as U.S. presence and leadership.
I mean, he's won me over, and I really think he's the one to run the country right now, and he's the one that can stand up against Obama. Where I still, you know, like some of the other candidates that were up there, I think McCain is the one. So I'm very happy now.
Win or lose, it's a democracy. That's how it works. If we don't make our message the way we need to, so be it. I mean, I can always get that bumper sticker, is it 2012 yet, so.
You know, they say the difference between a hockey mom and a pit bull? Lipstick.
On my radar screen, she's a breath of fresh air.
I'm sorry, Sarah Palin was just a pure negative from day one.
I'm not going to Washington to seek their good opinion. I'm going to Washington to serve the people of this great country.
I think she's great. She has energized the campaign. When I heard her, we were on the bus to Dayton when we got the word that it was going to be her, and we're thinking, oh my gosh, what did he do? Did he just throw the election away? I didn't know enough about her.
I couldn't believe that rather wise man would do that. It was almost like pulling a joke on the electorate, I thought.
I can't see that woman being able to sit across the table from a Middle Eastern prime minister who a lot of them don't have a whole lot of opinion of women to begin with, and you're putting a woman there who's, Joe Plumber, and it's too hokey.
I really don't think she's capable of running the country if something happens to McCain. She has no experience.
I don't think she's at all qualified for the vice presidency, and when you consider McCain's age and the fact that he may not be here all 4 years, I think it's a really, really scary idea.
If McCain dropped dead after he got elected and she was our president, she'd have advisors around her to help her, and she's done things in her life that tells me that, you know, if you raise 5 kids, you've got a good solid family, she's been married, you know, 20 years to her husband, he seems like a level-headed guy. Why couldn't she do the job? She's only had 2 years as governor, 10 years or 8 to 10 years as mayor, and owned her own small business. Well, that's more executive experience than Obama and McCain combined.
I don't think there's any media system on earth that could have hid from the American voters the true nature of Sarah Palin's intellect. I just don't think it was possible. An admirable woman in many ways, but an intellectual she is not.
Government's going to have to learn to be more efficient and live with less if that's what it takes.
The impact, I think, in a few days will be she is an embarrassment. She's inadequate. She could not possibly be the president. And I can't believe there's even a Republican that would believe that she could be.
Nuclear weaponry, of course, would be the be-all, end-all of the game. You know what I did? There is not, and how long have I been at this? Like 5 weeks? So there hasn't been a whole lot that I've promised except to do what is right for the American people.
It's not you. You are not running
for greed and corruption on Wall Street.
She gets that confused.
I am offended by her lack of knowledge, and that anybody, either party, would be foolish enough to choose her as a running mate. I don't know what their agenda was. There was some, whether it was because she's supposed to be this cute young thing and she is a maverick, as she mentioned 500 times. She did not impress me. She does not impress me. She is not a breath of fresh air. I guess that means I didn't like her too much.
Ahmadinejad are not allowed.
There she goes. She's good at that word.
To use those nuclear weapons. It is that important. Can we talk about Afghanistan real quick also?
As I'm looking at her, I'm thinking, boy, she would have been perfect, like if she were in England as part of the royal family or something, that could just be somebody that was nice and like Lady Diana or something like that. It was just somebody smiling and a good person that was a social.
Them how to speak well.
They do,
So
and how to pronounce words properly. It just, and it was an embarrassment, and it was, I just can't imagine what other countries must think of that.
I felt it was a bit of a joke, actually.
George Bush and the people around him, the people he surrounds himself with, are of an evangelical Christian bent, that they believe that certain things will bring on the second coming.
We should respect religion, and if the dominant religion was this conservative American Protestantism, that would be fine. Maybe we should respect it, but I think we need to be careful that we don't marginalize people. So I fear that George Bush's take on religion is quite narrow-minded, and that it excludes a lot of people. I know didn't recently in the States, it was illegal to sing the national anthem in Spanish or something like that. It seems a bit nuts to me.
It's just a very narrow view, and I think a lot of it isn't because they're particularly bad people. I just think that they haven't been outside of their little area to know that there's a larger world, even though they can watch it on television or whatever. I think you fear what you don't know, and if you haven't traveled, if you haven't had those experiences, then they're scary.
And I put on talk radio, and the number of people that called in, and they were just horrified because this was just the end of life as we've known it. And some of them almost spoke like he was the Antichrist. I mean, come on.
I just cannot go along with the morals of Obama.
Brothers and sisters, let us bow our heads in prayer.
And as far as Europe goes, they don't go to church too much anymore in Europe. It's very secular over there.
Però è che ci sta e c'entra, quello è il problema.
He says, you know, a lot of the Italian people, they don't approve the religion to combine with politica, but it is there. Obviously, you know, it is people that they try to bring it in more, but it shouldn't be a problem. As long as they keep in regulation, they're not overdoing it.
Europe has a history of religious conflict, and therefore that's not the setting in which people want to contest politics, is one that has something to do with religion. Just because the history of religion here is one that has a lot to do with conflict. So they view religion in very different terms through a very different lens, and they don't want the public discourse of politics, public policy, to be somehow influenced by these types of, well, what can become very passionate views.
I think there's many strong religious Christian people that want the culture of death to stop. And when I'm talking about culture of death, I mean the fact that you can abort babies up to 9 months in a cruel partial birth abortion where the head is not delivered, the body's delivered, and the brain is literally sucked out. And you got animal activist people putting people in jail for kicking a 6-month-old puppy, which I don't propose. Where is the justice? And there's a cultural battle going on. On a spiritual level, there's a spiritual battle going on. Many people are saying this election is a fulfillment of revelation, of prophecies.
We lift up, O God, all that he brings in hope and change. Pour out your wisdom upon him day by day, and grant that on this journey he will mount up with wings as eagles. In the name of our Lord, amen.
It really will blow people away in the States how much access we have into schools, because you know in the States it's completely divided, and there's no way you as a local minister would have access into the schools.
The place of religion is in the private sphere, not necessarily in the public realm. I think the founders recognized that, and that's why they wrote the Constitution the way they did.
That is the strange thing about it, is even though over here, generally you would, as a clergy, you know, you'd have more access, there is, when it actually comes down to it, there is more of an antipathy to talk in religious language, especially within political circles, where it really is a no-no, it's frowned upon, whereas in the States, it's a yes, you better speak in religious tones, or you're not going to get elected. So that is hugely different.
It's kind of a relief for me to be somewhere where religion doesn't play a part in the electoral process as much. I find, as someone who is very much a proponent of a separation between church and state, that being over here and seeing that, it's a big relief, you know, and I think seeing the contrast between how much of a part it plays in the U.S. Elections is really surprising. You know, it's been a great chance for me to kind of step back and see how much of a part it plays.
Could either Obama or McCain be elected here?
No, they're too religious.
Certainly our politicians would tend to keep their religious views private. And I guess the example of that was Tony Blair, who didn't really talk about his faith and waited until after leaving office before he joined the Catholic Church.
Why a candidate couldn't come to office simply with a view that was more agnostic or even atheist, who could certainly do the job equally as well.
I would rather take you because you're Jewish, but I can't take you if you're an atheist.
It's such an important part of this country. You cannot eliminate religion from politics. It goes to the true values of the person. If they're leading this country, you have to look at what that person is, inside and out. and their values, and that's where the religion comes in, and it's very important for me.
We are founded on, and we are a part of who we are. And that's our religious belief. That's what drives us. That's our character. If we believe in something, but do we value in someone who does not believe in a supreme being?
Here, the candidates, the politicians, regardless of whether they have or don't have this kind of deep personal faith or conviction, they don't wear it on their sleeves. It's not a big issue.
I don't know, it's very difficult to describe because America has this weird relationship, strange relationship with religion and politics.
Our country was founded on Christian Judeo principles. Why all of a sudden do we have to not have God around?
We don't want religion to enter in too far, but at the same time we want to see our candidates going to church and saying God bless America and so on at frequent points.
God bless you and God bless America. Thank you.
A European's response would be, convince me why. You know, why does that add, why do those types of activities add any value to the type of public policy that this person is going to be pushing?
God bless you. God bless the United States of America.
It's more complex than just to say that religion doesn't matter here and religion matters there. It's a very awkward relationship in the U.S., and it's an awkward relationship that the Founding Fathers created with the role of God and religion in American politics. So I think it's easier to explain the lack of religion in UK politics to Americans than it is to explain the complex nature of religion in American politics to Europeans.
I think there's kind of two sides to it. I think there's a lot of Republicans who have the religious stand that they take, and I think there's a lot of Republicans that would assume keep the religion out of it. I think there's a lot of Republicans and probably Democrats alike. I mean, I have friends who are Democrats who share the thought with me that there's really a lot of partisanship right now in the country, and it might do some good to kind of step out of the whole, well, I'm a Republican, well, I'm a Democrat, and just work together rather than work to tear each other apart.
So your logo itself is 7-foot diameter, and we estimate the text will be about a 12-foot diameter.
Yeah, he's doing that. Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Yes, very nice.
Knows my son perfect, my son sensible.
Now, do you guys just donate your time?
Yeah. That's what we've been doing.
It ultimately is the rural communities that have been hit the hardest, by the last 8 years, and they're the ones that are going to benefit the most by an Obama presidency. So that's what attracted me to this project, is that it gets me out into all corners of the state, to the people that are hurting the most and that are going to benefit the most. Obama has a long record of standing up for rural values, and he's from an agricultural state just like Ohio. So, I mean, he ultimately is the right candidate for these communities.
Right. Absolutely.
I think this is a good project for that reason.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Give it to somebody that's going to use it.
Okay, I will.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course. And if there's anything else you need, or if you see any other signs in the yard you like better, just snap them.
Our farm was originally Alonzo Wright, the black chauffeur of Rockefeller, owned this property before us. So it's two before us, correct. So it's very fitting that we have Obama, that we're supporting him for president of the United States.
Yeah, I voted for Bush twice.
And I convinced her that Obama is the way to go.
Even to have the words come out of their mouth that Obama's a terrorist, that if I hadn't switched political lines and I was still a Republican, that right there would have made me switch. My husband died 4 years ago, and I was not left a wealthy woman. Actually, he didn't have insurance. And oops, I still had the same bills I had when he was alive. I am working harder than I ever have before, and I have less than I ever had before. And That's not right. I'm not asking, you know, I don't want the diamond rings and the fancy cars. A minivan works for me. But I want to be able to know that my bills are paid, that I have money in the savings account, that, you know, when my grandchildren call and say, Grandma, I need this. Oh, honey, just a minute, we'll do it. You know, let Grandma go get it for you. That's all I want. I want people to have health care. And I want us all to be treated the same. And there has to be a change. It can't go on this way. Because if it does, no one's going to have anything. And then you're going to have a terrible world war.
If we are going to be serious about this issue, we've got to have a president who is going to tackle it head on, and that's what I intend to do as president.
All right. Because there's not enough vouchers, therefore we shouldn't do it, even though it's working. I got it.
Yeah, well, they were talking about a meeting that Barack Obama had with a guy named Joe, who's a plumber. He's been working at his business, a business that he's been working for many, many years, and now he's got the opportunity to buy it. If he buys it, he's going to pay a lot more taxes to under Senator Obama's plan than he would under Senator McCain, to the point where he wouldn't be able to hire more people.
We need jobs. You know, hopefully we're going to get good paying jobs with the benefits. So if you look at it that way, people are deservedly angry. And I believe, I'm not happy either. And some people have lost their houses, they're just like the foreclosures and everything, and they have a right to be angry. But why didn't our government do something 10, 15 years ago? They saw this was coming.
I mean, America has always been the greatest country in the world for opportunity. I mean, that's what our founding fathers started this country on, is opportunity, unlimited opportunity. And certainly more and more government impedes those opportunities and impedes people's ability to become successful. And so I thought it was very, very compelling tonight to see, after this third debate, to really see the true Barack Obama more and more coming out, which is bigger and bigger and bigger government, more and more control of our lives. That's exactly the opposite of what we need and what we want and what we desire as Americans.
We must make sure that we get the government to know that, hey, this is what the people want and believe, and this is what we must do.
This is our chart we've been showing the guys. You can see these are our sales, the dark blue, and these are our orders. So for 34 months in a row, orders have exceeded sales for a trailing 12-month average. So our future looks pretty good. Even though the economy looks like hell, we still look pretty good. We're waiting for the hammer to fall.
And we do have the highest tax rate in the world for businesses. So if we go any higher, I think is it 35, 36%, something like that? It's around that range. And if we go much higher than that, we'll be higher than the highest, and we already are the highest.
But we make a lot of parts for like aircraft, aerospace, defense.
My biggest fear, that all that we've done, you know, that my personal life, that all that I've done to prepare to retire is gone.
See, this is bad. They're not even running at night. Do we have these? This is the stuff right here that costs so much money and so expensive. I'll show you this here. These are you familiar with hoists on a helicopter that hold the cable that goes up and down? This goes on the helicopter like this, and the cable comes right down through the middle.
Hopefully the public is wise enough, like when we picked a Republican president, we picked a Democratic Congress. Hopefully if we pick a Democratic president, some people will be smart enough to say, well, let's have some Republicans here to offset that, so that they don't fight with each other, but they compromise. Because making a bill in Washington is like a maybe. I mean, you're sticking a fillet over here you got a hot dog, and over there's a little bit of bologna, there's a little bit of turkey, and you crunch the crap together and push it out the door, and there's a bill.
These are parts that they're going to be tacked out, not Global Hawk. It goes on a an unmanned aircraft that'll fire, and this goes in a braking system. It's the beginning of getting the part done.
I mean, if you sincerely believe that Senator Obama is going to go talk to all these guys around the world and make peace, you got to be drinking the Kool-Aid, buddy, because that's Kool-Aid. That doesn't happen that way. Dame Majadabad, or whatever the hell his name is, he's not going to sit down and talk with Obama unless Obama flies to Iran. He's not going to come to the United States. I mean, here I don't mind if they come here because we have a pretty safe country. I think we could trust what we do. But I wouldn't go overseas with anything. I'd be scared hell to go over there.
Hi, it's Greg there.
My name is Brad Hall, calling on behalf of the John McCain campaign. Who are you planning to vote for this election, if I may ask?
He is pro-life. He is for life.
Is there any chance you're planning to vote for John McCain?
State of Ohio. Exactly.
Well, great. Thanks for your time, and I hope you have a great night.
All right. Well, we agree to disagree, so. All right. Bye-bye.
I think Democrats have done a masterful job at painting all the problems that people perceive about the federal government on the Republican Party. I think that's baseless. I think that is not grounded in fact. But I think the way they've done it almost paints a good lesson for political parties in the future for escaping all liability for your own mistakes and painting it on the other guy.
There's a lot of people that we've called that are Republicans, and they're like, I got to help, I got to get out, we need to win. They definitely do not want Obama to be in. They just feel like that'd be totally bad for the country. Do you plan to vote for John McCain and Sarah Palin this November? Okay, well, thank you. All right, bye.
No, they're not.
Three socialists. They're scared that he would be too far to the left, that the economy would be worse off, that if we got into another conflict, we don't know how he would handle it. So it's scary. It's even scary for me as I'm making these calls. But I feel good in a way that there's other people out there that have, feel the same way I do on some issues. Now, I did get one guy who said, I'm voting for Obama. And I said, why? You want you to be, he's socialist, it's going to turn out that way? He goes, I don't care, the militia, we'll get the militia after it. Do you plan to vote for John McCain and Sarah Palin this November? Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, great. Hi, Neil. My name is Bob. I'm calling from the
Republic. We got his vote.
From my perspective, being a 20-some-year-old Clevelander, if you will, just 16 miles east of Cleveland here, I see the world differently than someone in New York would, or someone out in California. But here, specifically in Ohio, I would definitely have done things differently. I've never had anyone yell at me, but no one's ever yelled at me so far. My name is Matt, and I'm a volunteer of the Ohio Republican Party.
Okay.
Just stop by to talk to you for a few minutes. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind answering a few questions. So.
Not really today.
Okay.
Thanks.
If you don't mind, I do have just a little literature for you.
Got 2 of them in the mail today.
Okay. Well, thank you. Will you be voting for John McCain and Sarah Palin in November? Okay. For me, it's too close to call in this area. It's been really a hit and miss, but so far it's been a lot more hitting than missing, and we'll see how it goes with this next House. Will you be voting for John McCain and Sarah Palin in November?
Yeah, I think we both are.
Okay. Right now, I think this is more of an independent area where there's not one way or another. Mentor's big enough, 50-some thousand people, where you do get a good feel for exactly how people, how people of all kinds think together, not just one certain kind of, thought. Will you be voting for John McCain and Sarah Palin?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I think it's close. That's just me. It's going well. still talking to a lot of people. A few more haven't been home, but getting the word out, and only one person's been a little bit rude and slamming the door in my face. But other than that, I can't complain. There's a lot of McCain supporters out there, which is a wonderful thing.
There's a bigger picture of just being a citizen of the world and knowing how much influence and power the United States has, that it is really important, and it's not just important for Americans, but it's important for the whole of the rest of the world who their leader is, because it impacts on all of us.
Senator Obama, if I could only but vote, you'd have my vote. But I'm sure you'll settle for my wife's vote, especially as it is in the state of Virginia.
You know, Barack Obama likes to say, yes, we can, but, you know, we're in Scotland, so what do you think we're going to say here? Aye, we can. All right, let's hear it. Can we make a difference as Americans abroad, not in America? Can we make a difference for our country? Aye, we can. Can we elect Barack Obama the next president of the United States of America? Aye, we can. Thanks, everybody.
For ministers, you're so used to speaking about hope. You're so used to, you know, looking at the future and speaking these terms, that Obama's message really did touch a chord. And it's certainly not me. There are many other ministers I know who have been deeply affected by this election, have been very supportive of what Obama has been standing for and what he's trying to do. It always amazes me when we go over there, and take gas prices as an example. When we tell folks how much it costs to fill up our car here, I mean, folks are just blown away. They just no concept that the cost of living elsewhere is different or anything like that.
Americana is present. It has permeated every country and every way of life. You ain't never Colorado, you ain't no friend of mine. And probably throughout the whole world, really. So in actual fact, and I'm not sure that since Americans don't learn about other countries in schools the way other countries teach about America. I mean, we did American history and world history, world geography in school, and learned a great deal about this country. That's one reason I was so happy to come and see it all, because I knew a lot about America before I came. And I think there's, for the most part, many Americans don't have, unless they have the chance to travel, if they stay in Ohio or the United States and don't go anywhere else, they really know very little about it. And I don't think they're encouraged.
Every time we've gone out to a pub and we ever say, oh, we're politics students from the United States, then everybody, just Scottish citizens have opinions and ideas, well-informed, surprisingly well-informed opinions about American politics, because you think about in the United States, if you went up and down the streets in Boston or New York and you ask people who the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom is, you'd probably get a lot of Tony Blairs and not as many Gordon Browns, so it was interesting.
I love Britain, I love British culture. I love that we're in the hub of what's going on. You've got Europe on one side, we've got America on the other. I think it's a great place to live. So I wouldn't live anywhere else, but America certainly would be up high and other places I'd want to live.
I haven't ever heard someone telling me I want to live in the States. Actually, I was talking today with a friend who lives here. It's a Mexican, but she lives in Edinburgh. And she told me, I want to do my PhD, but the only place that I can do it is in New York. And the last thing I want to do is to go and live in the States. So I think now it's a myth. I mean, of course, there are many people who want to live there, but I don't know anyone.
No, I don't really have any desire to, to live in the US. I've enjoyed visiting it, but I don't have any strong desire to go and live or work there.
I don't think I could live anywhere where guns were so readily available and legal.
I mean, the American TV, but we're always told it's so always talking about violence and how everybody's suddenly out to get you. I mean, I think this might even come through from the gun culture as well. I mean, I find guns absolutely terrifying. The idea of people being armed. I don't even like seeing police with armed because I'm just uncomfortable with ideas of guns. But the Americans, it seems to be everybody's out to get you, even at an individual level. And that extends to the whole idea of the country as well, of everybody's out to get America and everybody just wants to be here and take my life and take my job. Which we don't all want to be an American. I'm very happy being a Brit and a European.
Well, what does that say about the American psyche then? You know, if they have this fundamental fear of each other, you know, it appears that their psyche is all entrenched in this idea of everyone's out to get me and I need my gun to shoot anyone who comes, you know, near me and threatens me in any way. Whereas, you know, if you go to a place like Canada, right next to America, you know, people leave the door open, there's not this thing with guns. And I think if they just drop the whole fear pretense, it's the same with terrorism. You know, they ratchet it up beyond all reasonableness. It just gets completely unreasonable, red alert, all this kind of stuff. And fair enough, there was 9/11, but there's a sense that they just completely overreacted.
Is there anyone who registered online and does not have a ticket in their hand?
Get a good picture of it. Get a good picture of it so they can see.
Recognizes that there are evil forces in the world that want to destroy our way of life, and rather than inviting them over for tea, he recognizes that Islamic jihadists must be defeated, our troops must be given support, and our troops must come home to victory. I'm going to finish with the words of my favorite philosopher, Bluto from Animal House. When things weren't going very well, he said, "Over? It's not over. It's not over until we say it is." Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? No. And it's not over now. Who's with me? Let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Senator Lindsey Graham, Joe Plummer, Meghan McCain, Mrs. Cindy McCain, and the next President of the United States, Senator John McCain.
Well, you know, I didn't want to sit on the sidelines. This election's way too important. Way too important. So get out and vote. Get out and vote. And as far as my vote, it's going to be for a real American, John McCain.
Thank you. Friends, I paid tribute the other night to Senator Obama's eloquence, but listen to his words. He will consider drilling offshore. When I'm president, we'll drill offshore and we'll drill now. I know you're worried. America's a great country, but we're at a moment of national crisis that will determine our future. And let me ask you, will we continue to lead the world's economies, or will we be overtaken? Will the world become safer or more dangerous? Will our military remain the strongest in the world? Will our children and grandchildren's future be brighter than ours? My answer to you is yes. Yes, we will lead. Yes, we will prosper. Fight to get our economy out of the ditch and back in the lead. Fight for the ideals and character of a free people. Fight for our children's future. Fight for justice and opportunity for all. Stand up. Stand up to defend our country from its enemies. Stand up and fight. America is worth fighting for. Nothing is inevitable here. We never give up. We never quit. We never hide from history. We make history. Now let's go win this election and get this country moving again. God bless you and God bless America. Thank you.
I thought John did an excellent job today. He showed a lot of energy, a lot of emotion, and I really think that we're going to win this.
You could feel the energy in the room before he got here.
It's really crystal clear who represents America, who represents the heart of America and the heartland of America, which is Ohio. But John McCain is going to pull it out at the end.
Makes me feel like we do have the momentum. I think we're on our way to catching up and going to victory. I really believe it.
Oh, it's just a rush of adrenaline. It was just thrilling.
We're really excited. I do believe, just like he said tonight, that the momentum is on its way in our favor, and I think we're going to pull it out just like we have in 2004 and 2000.
Good morning. Brothers and sisters, let us bow our heads in prayer. Gracious God, from the vastness of space to this gathering of people, help us all to be wise and strong as we approach these days of decision, and let us always be mindful of the poor.
And Ohio will have its voice heard, and I believe that voice will be heard not only throughout our state, but across our nation. I remind you that no Republican has ever won the presidency without winning Ohio, and we're going to keep that tradition intact.
Obama, you know, it's kind of just grown month by month, both in organization, in size, in momentum. Well, I would say that the Obama campaign's been a lot more organized and really has been from the start. And I think that was something that we didn't appreciate necessarily in the beginning, how clearly organized he was. I think Iowa proved how organized they were. And again, the McCain campaign's always been kind of, you know, one way or the other. Even little things like when you show up at these events and, you know, the sound system doesn't work, or, you know, there aren't enough spots on the risers for cameras, or, you know, there's just too big a crowd shows up or too small a crowd shows up. Things like that. They haven't necessarily been able to take the time to really think through details, and I think the Obama campaign has.
And we need every single one of you to get out there to make the case for new leadership, for change, for the kind of future that you and your families deserve. Will you go and make a stand for the future, for hope, for the America we love and believe in? Let's chart a new course. Let's elect Barack Obama and Joe Biden. Thank you all, and God bless you.
That was my first canvassing. I'm not even a voter here in America, but I've lived here for 10 years. I'm a resident alien. I pay my taxes here. I'm dependent on the politics that influence and shapes this country. And I decided I go out and do something for the candidates that I think will get it into the right direction. In the first place, when it stood Obama versus Hillary, I was reluctant to think favorably of a candidate who was for the war in Iraq, because when the war started, to me as a German, it was very clear that it was very wrong and also foolish to start this war. And very few people at this time understood this in America. I have turned into a canvasser.
Okay.
for Obama. Generally, Americans have a fear of government or a resentment of government. They don't want government to look into their lives and govern their lives naturally. So one example is the uninsured motorist. Because government is not able to ensure that whoever is on the road is insured, you have to pay an extra $50 or $100 every 6 months to insure yourself against those uninsured motorists. The reason this cannot be handled is because you are not required to register your abode here in this country. And this is part of the perceived freedom of an American, that he can live where he wants and he does not have to register with the authorities. But in reality, everybody, your bank, your insurer, everybody who wants to know goes to the internet and can find out where you live. Just the government cannot.
The universal health care in Germany, the healthcare system is so that everybody has to have health insurance. If you're working, you have to have it through your employer. If you aren't working, you had a state health insurance. You could upgrade your health insurance, but the health insurance itself would cover your basic needs. And you had very good health care there. There was absolutely no question. You didn't have waiting lines or anything else. There was it was an excellent system.
In Germany especially, people expect a lot from their government because they are being used to the government providing all this, and they say, why should I do it if I pay my taxes and the government can do it? So that's the downside.
So when someone says to you, Obama's a socialist, how do you respond to that?
That's ridiculous. That's truly ridiculous, because what is wrong about being socially minded, which he is, of having a conscience about how people are doing on different levels of wealth or poverty? Nothing can be wrong with this. Socialism as an ism is something that doesn't exist in America, even as a thought, because it would never prosper here. And it has never prospered here. It hasn't even prospered in Germany too much. So that's a totally misleading label.
It's a pretty scary situation there. Whoever jumps in is jumping into a ball of fire.
His race specifically is an issue. And it's unfortunate. I hate to see that. I hate to hear it. I wish that it wasn't that way, but I think it is.
There is a quality about him that is exceptional, and I think that's why it has overcome race, because if he doesn't win, it will be race.
You think so?
Yes, absolutely think so.
Nobody talks about that anymore.
Nobody's allowed to. Nobody's allowed to. But, you know, I would like to think that I'm not prejudiced. I don't think there is a white person in this country that doesn't harbor some prejudice, or we'd all be married to black people. Or our kids would, you know what I mean?
Well, I don't think there's a black person in this country that doesn't harbor.
Right. I agree.
We all have certain
I agree, but they are operating from a lesser than position and always have.
I mean, I've heard, like, getting assassinated. I hope that would never happen, but I don't know.
I think it's going to be bad either way, whoever wins. Because if Barack gets elected, then I feel like there's going to be a lot of bad things because people say he's black. But I feel like if McCain gets elected, that people are going to go in like another depression because so many people want to change.
Everybody's forgetting about the terrorism that's hit this country. And I think John McCain's a better man to handle that.
Wouldn't you want a leader that other people look up to and are willing to sit down at the table with and have a discussion with? Mm-hmm. You know, because that's the only way we're going to progress.
I'm a little nervous about Sarah Palin being vice president. I like Barack Obama. I think he has things to offer. He was in a tough city in Chicago, and you know, I think both have good points and both have bad points.
The last 8 years, my paycheck's gotten a lot smaller than it used to be, and I want the troops home yesterday. We had no business going there, and I want them back home.
Basically, what I try to do is to find individuals that have the most truth in what they're saying, and it's difficult sometimes to dig that out. But I think with effort and the internet, YouTube, and things like this, if you're careful, that you can find truth. And I generally vote for the person who lies the least.
So who are you going to vote for?
McCain.
It's yours. Come on, take it back. Let me hear this, man. Ohio, I've got 2 words for you. 2 days. We will not just win Ohio. We will win this general election. And together, you and I, we're going to change this country. And we will change the world. A rising is coming. Thank you, everybody. God bless you. God bless the United States.
I'm 71 years old, and I have never seen anything like this before. First campaign I've ever worked in. Up to now, never felt like there was anybody I really felt that strongly about, and just felt I had to be involved this year.
One day a man called me and told me Obama was not a United States citizen, and I very nicely told him he had been born in Hawaii, and he was. And then he told me that he was a Muslim nationalist, and I told him he was a Christian, and then he was rather rude and said, "Yes, and you believe the Easter Bunny's going to come on Easter Sunday," and hung up on me.
People say, well, the rest of the world, they don't care about the rest of the world. In fact, when I was making calls earlier, one of the most irate women that I talked to was a person, was right after he had been in Germany. And that was the whole reason why she wasn't voting for him. Now, she probably might have had another reason, and that was the reason she was giving. And I said, well, ma'am, if it helps you any, you know, Senator McCain took the same tour. He just wasn't quite as well received overseas, but they were in almost exactly the same spot. So if it's a deal breaker, well, it is a deal breaker, she said.
I just think it'll be scary if he doesn't win.
For some reason, I just feel like this is something that is far above any election I've ever seen or experienced. I'm very concerned about where we are headed as a nation. You know, I always loved, when I was growing up, I loved being number one. The United States was number one in everything. Everything from A to Z, from basketball to war to football to, you know, we had the number one Navy, whatever. We were number one, but we've lost that. We've lost the respect of the world, and I'm very concerned about that.
This election is different because it really is what's going to happen. It's the future of the United States, and with McCain, it's the same old Bush. We'll be in a war for 100 years. We're not going to get out of it, and we can't take the possibility of Palin being president.
It means a lot to see an African American ascend to this stage in the United States. To think that he could be a president or the president of the United States, it's amazing.
I talked to a lot of people and I saw a lot of African Americans who had so high hopes in Obama, and I really hope that he will win tonight because they're going to be very, very disappointed. And I speak to a lot of white conservative people who are, they say they are going to have very hard time if Obama wins, and they keep talking about the socialism and all that stuff. I mean, my country was communism, so I know what socialism is. This is not.
It really is historic if you think about it. People actually being able to pick, not having a tyrant, not having a dictator, not having a parliament. We actually have somebody that we pick to lead our country and to put us forth.
I'm a little nervous right now, but our resolve, the Republican Party resolve, we're going to fight till the end.
I think McCain had a tough row to hoe to begin with. So when you start out in such a hole as he did and as Republicans, our party did, I think he did a phenomenal job, but we still don't know what's going to happen. But he really made it respectable. And by doing that, regardless of what happens, his political party doesn't get wiped out, which is really critical as a Republican.
Right now, in these times, we need a real leader. And a real leader right now is John McCain.
America's looking to have one of the highest turnouts, one of the most legitimate elections in the Western world, and that's amazing, and that's all we want, really. It'll be good.
I was shocked, actually, that there were so many people waiting to, so many British people, waiting to get in. It's awesome that everyone's so interested.
Obviously, we're hearing it from an outsider's perspective, and we expect Obama to win because it seems the most rational, the best choice to make, and that the most people are behind him. The worst thing we can think of is something like 2000, where the election was a scam, Bush stole the election, it was completely illegitimate, and that's what I would think would be the case if Obama were to lose. I don't think it would be a legitimate loss, and that's why I would be depressed and angry.
It's a lot of British people. It's a momentous election in the history of the world, I guess. The fact that all these people here want to watch the outcome. It doesn't matter if you're American, it doesn't matter if you're British, it doesn't matter what your nationality is. The fact is, this many people are interested, they should be allowed to watch the outcome, whether the bar closes or not.
He's not the best man I would have picked. So obviously, I'm a Brit and a socialist, so my opinion's not really valid.
I think it's great personally, but it's because at the end of the day, the United States always affects the rest of the world. Economy and everything. So it's great to see everyone get excited about it. And I know that the rest of the world wants Obama.
Obama is 56% in Ohio, 51% in Florida, and 51% in North Carolina. Yeah, they're all three of them are swing states, and I'm expecting them all to go to Obama.
The election, the U.S. election, if it were held in Canada, Obama would win by a landslide. It would be 70 to 30%. They had a poll a few weeks ago, and that's the figure that came out. Over 70% of people thought that Obama would be a wise choice.
It doesn't affect me personally, but it will affect the world. I think if McCain wins, the world is going to be outraged.
What's going on, man?
Obama just took Florida, so everyone's happy,
Florida?
Yeah.
That's a big state, right?
No, of course, a huge state, very significant, so we're doing well so far. I think in there it's about 83-34 Obama, or 81-34 Obama.
It may not be a good night for the Republicans now, but I wouldn't be surprised if out of smoldering ashes rises another revolution of sorts, because Republicans get down like this, they tend to get back to their basics and their grassroots, and I think they become really strong. So you may see a 94 or a Reagan-type revolution coming.
So goes Ohio, so goes the nation!
I think a lot of people are making a statement that they no longer support the negative attitudes against people of other colors, races, religions, and so forth.
Anyone can be president, that we're going to break that barrier and to elect Barack Obama, a wonderful, brilliant, educated African-American man who has brought people together across the community is just the most exciting thing I can imagine.
And like I've heard from many other African Americans, I never thought I'd see this day.
And I'm so delighted how we've all come together. And I'm just very emotional.
The United States is going to become less isolated if Barack Obama wins tonight. A lot of people who tend to shy away from America right now are going to welcome Americans with open arms because really they would see it as a big break from the George Bush era.
I would say that I'm disappointed what it means to America, and I think it means higher taxes, and that means we have someone that's not very experienced at the head of the country. But from the worldview, perhaps Senator Obama, if he winds up being successful tonight, will repair some of our relationships around the world. And if he does that, then that'll be a good thing.
What I think it's great the way things are going. And it's going to prove that all this negative campaigning that McCain did, it didn't work. And there was no swift voting this time.
There is a lot to gain in Lake County. It is traditionally Republican, and it is a bellwether county this election. So if Lake County goes, so goes Ohio. I'm not quite sure about that, but at the same time, I would really like to see Lake County go.
Just by 100 and some odd votes, he took Lake County.
I cannot believe Ohio went blue and Lake County. In my wildest dreams, I never thought both of those things would happen. I'm just really excited.
Obama! 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 Obama!
I wish my grandmother was here to see this day.
We just won Ohio, you know what I'm saying, just having a big celebration, and it's just a big change for the whole U.S., you know what I'm saying, for the whole world, for real.
This is changing the world. It is so important. It means finally that we're going to have somebody on our side, representing the United States in a way we want to be seen to the rest of the world. I'm thrilled, 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 thrilled.
It's very upsetting. I mean, it's not right that the presidency can be bought in the United States. The world's going to go to hell. Our future is very scary, you know. When it comes to religion, the end is coming close. With Obama in office now, it's a lot closer. I never thought that I would see a man of color elected within my lifetime. I always hoped it would happen, but I just never thought it would happen.
I'm really moved. It is so great to see something you have hoped for so much come true. I can't believe it. I mean, I did believe in it, but it was important for me too that it is more than just a win, that it is really a landslide that gives Barack Obama a mandate to do what he promises to do. And this is so great. I'm really glad for this country. I cannot vote in this country, but I live here and I look forward to the next 8 years.
USA! 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 And so, to all the and governments who are watching today, from the grandest capitals to the small village where my father was born, Know that America is a friend of each nation and every man, woman, and child who seeks a future of peace and dignity, and we are ready to lead once more. In this winter of our hardship, let us remember these timeless words. With hope and virtue, let us brave once more the icy currents and endure what storms may come. Let it be said by our children's children that when we were tested, we refused to let this journey end, that we did not turn back nor did we falter. And with eyes fixed on the horizon and God's grace upon us, we carried forth that great gift of freedom and delivered it safely to future generations. Thank you. God bless you. And God bless the United States of America.
Who is the Prime Minister of Great Britain?
Who's the Prime Minister of Great Britain? Paul Sadler. I don't know.
Of Great Britain? Primo, help me. I forgot his name.
Well, it wasn't Tony Blair, I know that.
No, he's out. I don't know.
I used to, but I think he's gone now. That Tony, what's his name, was over there. Can't think of it right now. But didn't they throw him out?
God, I'm sorry, I can't remember right now.
Blair was, don't remember, truthfully.
That's a female Margaret Thatcher, is that right? No, no, I don't know.
Blair's gone. Margaret Thatcher's not hot anymore. I don't know.
Gordon Brown.
Was Tony Blair, and I'm trying to remember the gentleman's name. Escapes me. Sorry.
I forgot his name, some new guy. He's the guy that took Tony Blair's spot. I never paid much attention to him.